is Burkland Gardens. Today we're in the main part of the nursery where I have most of my plants these days, and because of the watering situation, and we have irrigation in this part of the nursery, so it really helps me out with the watering. And today we're going to talk about spruces. So I have a group of spruces that we're going to go over, and good garden-worthy trees that some a little more almost miniature, some slow, all somewhat slow growing, and we'll kind of start with that. So here's a tree, it's called Blue Sky, and it is a Serbian spruce, Picea Orientalis, and it has a nice growth. The color is just outstanding on this one. So Conifer Kingdom, Sam Pratt down there, reading something on his description about it, because I've never seen a more mature one, but their largest one is quite broad at the bottom. So broadly conical is the growth type on it, even though this year it's putting on a good 8-9 inches of growth for sure. But I think a little bit of pruning on it, maybe down, can just help it to fill in. It is a very full tree as well. So nice if you have some space at the bottom of the tree that let it become that broad conical and let it do what it wants to do. So, but the color just really, really nice. So here's a Oriental spruce, Picea Orientalis. It's called Skagit. So we live in Skagit County here in Mount Vernon, and I'm not sure who introduced it. It's a tree that is quite dense, dark green, which is common, with the Oriental spruces. They have that dark green, short needles, and they'll be very, very dense, 12 to 15 feet tall, and a dense, so not, small to medium-sized tree. So you don't want to put it in a small space close to the house. Out in a garden bed would be the best situation. But Oriental spruces, one of my favorite spruces, and so that would be a nice choice. So here we have a Norway spruce, the weeping version. This one, you stake it to get whatever height you want. Usually 3, 4, 5 feet is the standard, and then it'll weep over and it'll create this nice cape on the ground and grow along the ground. If you don't stake it, it'll be more flat on the ground. So this has been a nursery tree for quite a long time, and the color, Norway spruces are quite popular. There's quite a few of them. The needles are not too pokey, they're somewhat soft. There's some of the cultivars that might be a little more pokey than others, but this one's really nice. And the color's outstanding, and then just the form of it, having a weeping tree in the garden that you can add a little bit of height to and then have it weep over, and just you could use it in a rock garden or amongst your other plants, or a water feature, anything like that. So these are in 2-gallon size, so they're doing really well this year. So the next tree we're going to talk about is a blue spruce, Colorado blue spruce, Picea pungens. This is an Isley introduction. They call it Isley Fastigiata, and Fastigiata means the branches growing upright. It doesn't necessarily mean columnar, even though this tree, and again I'm going by Isley description, will stay pretty narrow, 4 feet wide at maturity, 12 to 15 feet tall, with a nice green color and nice dense habit. So I'm looking forward to this one. It's doing really well this year, and I have 3 of these in my inventory, and I think it's just going to be a great tree to have around, especially for the blue in the landscape, and the fact that it's pretty narrow. So next we have another Norway spruce, Picea Abies heroni. So this one pretty slow growing. I did a little bit of pruning on it yesterday, just to things were kind of sticking out. It's a very dense plant, and it would fit well in a smaller garden. It's not miniature, but it's going to be slower growing. You can see even at its age it's at now, which is probably 4 to 5 years. It's a nice sized little plant, and it'll hit its growth spurt. So you'd want to give it some room, but there's not a lot of information on this one, and so I'm just going by a couple of descriptions that I have, and from what we see right here, which is, again, what I'm finding from a description, it's a nice, dense, slow-growing plant. So our next spruce is another Norway spruce. Again, they're very, common as garden trees. This particular one's called Gold Drift, and it was hybridized by Bob Fincham, author, speaker, and nurseryman. He was also a teacher for his career, but had a conifer nursery as well. So he developed a number of different types of Norway spruce in particular. Gold Drift was one that he was the most fond of. And here's a nice large specimen you can see. So it'll take staking to get it up taller, and then it can grow more upright from this point, but it may fall over. So they can get 10 or 12 feet tall if you stake them. And then here's a smaller one that's it's still in a 2-gallon size. Now, if you don't stake them, they'll be quite low to the ground and not have any height to them. But really nice color in there. One feature of this is if they're grown in the southeast, they don't color up like this. It has to do with the sun, and in the northwest, they just get the right amount of sun, and they can burn, but I've never experienced a lot of burning on the Gold Drift Norway spruce, but it's always, then usually they would grow out of it in another year. So maybe afternoon shade if you're in a really, hot area. So if you're in a part of the country that they might not color up, you would want to check that out. But really an outstanding garden tree. Here we have an Engelmann spruce, and it is very cold hardy spruce. So if you live in a very cold area, these would do very, very well. The color is kind of a gray blue, but outstanding color. You see, the newest growth still hasn't quite gone to its more of the blue than the gray, but then the older growth, then it'll be turning soon as it matures out here. So this one has a weeping habit. Now this, and it will stay fairly narrow, but not you would expect it to get 12 feet wide, and it can get somewhat tall as well, 15 feet, even 20 feet. So consider that if you were thinking about this tree in your area. It's another really nice spruce for the landscape. Here we have two Serbian spruces, Picea Orientalis. This one here is the golden version of the species of the tree, which will get more large. The Serbian spruces don't get, they're pretty well behaved. They're dense and somewhat slender, and they have a conical, look to them, but they're not, real slender. They'll have a bit of a broad base to them as well. So something really nice in the landscape with a nice golden color. And this one's been shaded out at the bottom a little bit. So you can see where a lot of times trees will lose their golden color if they're shaded out. So this was in the group of trees over here, and you can see this part was shaded out. Over on the other side, we've got a little more sun at the bottom, a little more golden up at the top, nice and bright. And then one of my really favorite trees is another Serbian spruce called Peve Tijn, and this one's just starting. It'll develop into this broad, conical, slow-growing tree. At 10 years, it might be around 3 feet tall, and at 15 to 20 years, it might be 5 or 6 feet tall. And just you could do some light shearing on it, but just in its natural state, it's going to be a nice, broad, tight, golden tree. Again, it'll be on the backside. So the interesting thing about it has blue, silver, and gold all running through it, and then on the side that's most shaded, it'll lose some of its gold color, and so it'll be interesting as you walk around it. But really a nice tree. This develop its main leader This will just develop nice. You can do some light pruning if you feel like it. It'll develop itself though over a period of time. So, one tree that catches people's eye, another Oriental spruce, is Aureospicata, and you can see the color. This is the time of year when they're showing the best, and they've been in color like this for a few weeks now. My experience with them last year was that the color held for several months. So at least a month to 2 months they'll have this color before they turn back to their nice dark green color. But really an eye catcher in the landscape. It would take pruning well if you wanted to, make it more full. But Oriental spruces want to be full. That's just the way their habit is. Next one we've got is another Colorado blue spruce, and again, just more, almost a miniature, not quite. It's very slow growing. Globose, doesn't put out a leader, and a nice low growing blue in the garden would be what you would get with blue pearl. Another one is Colorado blue spruce called Irish cream. You can see a little bit of muted yellow, kind of a soft green color to it, and it is, in my eye, it's quite an eye catcher. Upright, conical tree. Looks like a fair-sized tree, maybe not quite the species size, but the color's just really nice. This is another, I think this is Pimlico, and that is another Serbian spruce that's going to stay low and flat and dense, and show those silvery blue needles, and just a really nice plant for the landscape that's going to stay low and not grow up. Takes pruning well if you do want to keep it even smaller than it wants to grow, but just a few inches a year growth on that. Another one that's similar to blue pearl, the Colorado blue spruce, is this one called Polly, and it has that same growth habit. You'll have slight differences in growth rates, but another really interesting, nice plant. And another Colorado blue spruce called early cone, and you can see it's just full of these cones. Has a little bit of a purple color in the cone as well. Underside more green. And I've just got one of these little bit older Colorado blue spruces called the Blues. And on this one here, grafted on a standard St. Mary's broom is this one. Nice flattish. It's more flat than the other two we looked at, like blue pearl, but it'll be a little bit more flat. This one here, this is Lanham's beehive, another Norway spruce. Again, grafted up a little bit high. These are like at least 15-year-old specimens. The last one I'm going to talk about is this another Norway spruce called Medusa. And I have a number of these, 5 or 6 of them in the inventory. They're about this size, some just slightly smaller, but you can just see what a tight growth habit and a low mounding plant this is. Color's outstanding, just makes a great addition to the garden. So we're going to get this into our landscape here too. So I hope you enjoyed looking at a few spruces that we have around, and things are looking good these days as far as we've had a good growing season and everything's looking good, and we're keeping it watered. So again, we appreciate your comments, and I think we may have a video coming up soon where you can send in some questions. We can have a question and answer. So if you could send in your questions, and maybe within a month or so we'll have a question and answer session and try to answer those. So until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye.